Formula 1 cars have had turbocharged engines ever since 2014, but did you know that they actually used to have turbocharged engines back in the 1970s and 80s as well? Well, yes, they did. A long time ago now, but this is not the only turbocharged era in Formula 1. In fact, there was a very prevalent one from the 70s to the 80s, and the pioneers of this were Renault. They introduced the first turbocharged car in, I believe it was 77, but it didn't immediately catch on for a few different reasons. Despite the incredible horsepower of these engines, they were very unreliable, and they also had an inherent problem as well: turbo lag. Now, turbo lag is not such a problem nowadays, but back in the day, it really was. And the reason for this is because the pressure in these turbos was basically too low when you were braking into a corner, shifting down a few gears, and the engine revs therefore went lower too. The turbo lag is something where the turbocharger doesn't kick in basically straight away. You just put your foot down. It's a bit like, I mean, I'll tell you a little experience here. It's a bit like when I used to have a very slow Hyundai, and if you left it in too high of a gear going down certain roads and you put your foot to the floor, the engine just wouldn't kick in because the revs are too low. Turbos work kind of in a similar way because of that too. They wouldn't kick in until you hit a certain rev or a certain speed, so you basically get all the power in one big lump. Which, yeah, these Formula 1 drivers kind of adapted to that, but in certain conditions, particularly in wet conditions, that would be incredibly dangerous. And on top of that as well, it would also ruin your rear tyres because you get all that big power in a big lump and you just spin your tyres and they run out of grip pretty much. It's like a 2013 Pirelli after 2 laps basically. And that was a long time ago though now. Pirelli doing a good job in my opinion in Formula 1 these days, but yeah, so turbocharged engines weren't too popular because of that, because they were unreliable, but eventually they got more reliable. The turbo lag was still a problem, that never went away, but just the monstrous horsepower levels meant that turbochargers were an absolute necessity. And in fact, by about 1984, turbochargers were on every single car on the grid bar the Tyrrell, and there are some conspiracy theories about Tyrrell being kicked out of the championship that year, partly because they didn't have a turbo engine. They made everybody a little dumb because they actually had a pretty reliable car on the whole, but that's a conspiracy theory for another day or another video if you guys want to look it up. Of course, I can do one for that, no problem. If you suggest it in the comments, I'm always reading them. So yeah. But eventually they did get phased out in 1989. They banned them for that season again, just because of safety concerns, because they were too powerful. I mean, you were getting to the point where even though they lowered the pressure in these turbos, I think they lowered it from like 5 bar down to 3 for 1988. Slightly before that, you had things like the BMW turbocharged engine in the back of the Benetton, allegedly producing up to 1,500 horsepower in qualifying. For context, Formula 1 cars nowadays produce about 1,000 or so with everything factored in, including the electrical distribution as well. So they were basically banned because of that. Too much power, too dangerous. A bit like ground effect as well, which I've also done a video on if you guys want to check out. But what is the role of these turbochargers in Formula 1 going forwards? Are they going to keep around in the future? Well, according to the regulations that are coming in for 2026, they are going to stay on the car. They are still going to be turbocharged engines, albeit those engines will probably produce a little less power because the actual ratio of these power units will be 50-50 split between petrol power and also electrical power, or ICE power, internal combustion engine power, and part of that will be the turbocharger in there as well. And the turbo, of course, as well, plays a pivotal role in allowing the car to harvest energy as well through the, I believe it's the MGU-H. I always get mixed up between the K and the H. I think the K is the brakes and the H is the turbocharger, but feel free to correct me in the comments below if I'm off on that one, guys. But yeah, basically turbochargers, you know, a bit like ground effects again, you know, for a long time they were outlawed, they weren't allowed in Formula 1, but now they're back to help fuel conservation of all things. They were brought in to make as much power as possible. Now, effectively, they're trying to save it by, you know, saving petrol, which is it's a real big change. But yeah, guys, for much more Formula 1 content, we'll be keeping you very much like a lot of content through this summer break. That's the phrase I'm looking for. Just a lot of content coming your way. Even though there's no Formula 1 out on the track, we'll be providing plenty of videos for you to watch. And of course, yeah, like, subscribe, comment, share, ring the bell as well. And of course, we'll be back very soon with some more videos just like this.